Good morning, all of you.
Good morning, Miss.
Okay, answer your attendance. Afla,
Present, Miss.
Ajmina, Amaya,
Present, Miss.
Atulya,
Present, Miss.
Drishya,
Present, Miss.
Jyotish,
Present, Miss.
Karthik,
Present, Miss.
Kavya,
Present, Miss.
Nachiketas, Neeraj, Rangeet,
Present, Miss.
Vaishnav, Anjali,
Present, Miss.
Shruti.
Present, Miss.
Vaishnav is there? Okay. Vaishna, undo. Vaishna is not there. Ajmina? No. Okay, last class we were just discussing about the application layer. We were dealing with the application layer. You have seen some application layer protocols. I have told you in the beginning, your OSI model or the TCP model, it has been divided it into different layers, and the topmost layer is called it as the application layer. And there you are having some protocols. And that protocols, they form the basis of various network services. Network services in the sense, it can be email, it can be file transfer, it can be web surfing, etc. So you are making use of some protocols in order to have these network services. Now we have studied in the last class about email, and you have also studied about the type of protocols used in email, that is SMTP, and another one is the POP3 protocol, right? Now today we will be just studying about this file transfer. File transfer is, it is nothing but transferring files from one computer to another is one of the most important tasks, right? When you are considering a networking or an inter-networking environment, sometimes you may require to transfer the files. So you are making use of a protocol, and that is called it as the FTP protocol, file transfer protocol. And this is a standard protocol, and you're using it to transfer files between computers and servers over the network. You want to transfer files between two systems, so you're making use of a protocol called the file transfer protocol. Okay, now sometimes two systems, they might have different file name conventions, or they may have different ways to represent text and data, or they may have different directory structures. So all these problems, it has been solved by making use of this protocol that is called it as the file transfer protocol. Okay, so that protocol is called it as the file transfer protocol. It is a very simple protocol. Now suppose if someone anywhere in the world, if they want to make their files available for other people, if you want to download it, or if you want to upload a file to the server, so that other people anywhere in the world can make use of that. So what you have to do is you have to simply make use of this FTP protocol, or you have to simply connect it to the FTP server and download the file using this protocol. Understanding? Suppose if you want to download a file, if somebody has created a file and if you want to download it, or if you want to upload some files from the server, now you are making use of this protocol, file transfer protocol. Okay, now So FTP uses the services of TCP. Now you have now when you are considering the uses of FTP, I told you can transfer files between computers, and also some website designers, if they want to upload some files to the server, you are making use of this protocol, right? But the main drawback of this FTP protocol is it is not a secure protocol. Security and all, you will be studying it in the next module. Now understand, this is not a secure protocol. The meaning is the data that is being transferred is not encrypted. It is sent in the form of a clear text. It is not encrypted. It is just sending it in the as a plain text or a clear text. So you can tell that it is not a secure protocol, and that is the drawback of this FTP. Now, this FTP establishes two connections. One is data connection and another one is called the control connection. Control connection or the data connection, they are just doing it in the form of commands and responses. If you want anything, you will be just putting the command and you will be getting the response based upon your command. Now this data connection, this will be opened and closed for each file transfer. Whenever you want to transfer a file, this data transfer connection or this data connection, this will be opened and closed for each file transfer. But your control connection, this will be remaining connected through the entire FTP session. You are starting a session, so this control connection, it will be remaining active through the entire session. Okay, so I have told you FTP, they establishes two connections. One is the data connection and another one is the control connection, right? Now, here you have got three entities here or three components. One is you are having a user. This is the user part, and you have a client part and you have a server part, right? Now this client has three components. One is the user interface, you have the control process, and you have the data transfer process. Now the server, it has got two components. One is the control process and another one is the data transfer process. So a control connection is made between the control process. Here also you have control process. Here also you have control process, both at the client and the server. So the control connection is made in between the two control processes. And the data connection, it is made between the data transfer process at the client side and also as the server side. Right. Now, this control connection, what I told before is that this will remain connected during the entire FTP session. But the data connection, this will be opened and then closed for each file transfer activity. Right? Now, the meaning is it opens each time. That means you are sending some commands, maybe that involves some transferring of files. And once the file is transferred, it will close the connection. That is the meaning. Or when a user starts an FTP session, the control connection, it opens for the entire session. While and when the control connection is open, the data connection can be opened or closed multiple times. Suppose if I want to transfer many files, not only a single file, if you want to transfer many files during the entire session, this will be for each file transfer, this will be opened and then will be closed. Okay, now usually you will be making use of two ports for the control connection and the data connection. That port number is called it as port 21 and the other one is port 20. Port 21 is used for control connection and port 20 is used for the data connection. Okay, so this is how it happens. I mean, just about the three components or the three entities in a file transfer protocol. You have got the user, you have a client, and you have a server. So client, you have three components: user interface, control process, and data transfer process. And server, you have two components: control process and data transfer process. And you can have two connections: control connection and data connection. The control process will remain connected and that will be remain open for the entire interactive session, file transfer session. But data connection for each file transfer, this will be opened and closed. Okay, now how the communication takes place over the data connection. Now, I have told you, the communication happens or the data connections happens in the form of commands. You will be issuing some commands to open it or to enable it. And once the file is transferred, you will be just closing the connection. Now, file transfer means three things. One is you want to retrieve the file. You want to retrieve the file. Retrieve the file means from where to where? You are retrieving the file that is from the server to client. Okay, so this is the first thing you are doing. You are retrieving the file that is from the server to client. Now, what is the thing? You want to store the file, storing the file. That is the second thing, that is from client to server. This action is taking place from client to server. And the third one is called it as the directory listing. Directory listing, that is happens from server to client. So file transfer in FTP means one of the three things. Either you want to retrieve the file, or you want to store the file, or you want to make a directory listing. Okay. Now here you are having a file type, data structure, and transmission mode. All these are defined by the client. File type in the sense, usually FTP can transfer sometimes if the file is of the form ASCII file or EBCDIC file or an image file. So you have to specify the file type across the data connection, right? Now you have a data structure like a file structure, record structure, or a page structure, and you have got some transmission modes. I am not going in detail with the transmission modes. You just understand you have got three types of transmission modes here. One is called it as the stream mode, other one is called it as the block mode, and another one is called it as the compressed mode. Two modes, sorry, block or compressed mode. Other one is the stream mode. Okay, so now how data connection, what are the steps that is required for a data connection, right? Now what happens initially, the client will issue a command for transferring the files. The client will issue a command to the server. Now, what it does, you will be sending a port command also along with this. Using the port command, the client send the port number to the server. Now the server, what it does, it will receive the port number and it will issue the active open part. That means whatever files is required, that will be transferred. So this is how the process is taking place. Okay, so file transfer occurs over the data connection. You are having some commands. I mean, the commands usually it is happening over the control connection. I have told you two types of connection you have. One is control connection and another one is the data connection. Now, actual file transfer is occurring over the data connection. But you are having the control connection also, but the meaning is you are sending some commands over the control connection so that your files transfer can take place over the data connection. Okay, understood what is file transfer protocol? I have told you, if you want, the file can be of any type. You want to transfer the file or retrieve the file, whatever, like if one host, if you want to copy the file from one host to another, or if you want to download a particular file, if you want to upload a particular file, you are making use of a protocol, and that is called as the file transfer protocol, right? Now, I have told you, you have got, these are the main components or the entities in a file transfer protocol. You have a user, you have a client, and you have a server. And how you can have two different types of connections here. One is the control connection and another one is the data connection. Data connection for each file transfer that will be opened and closed. But the control connection is remaining open for the entire FTP session. Okay, now how, with the help of port numbers only, they will be able to exchange their data. So client will be issuing the command for transferring the files. They will be issue a port command that contains the port number to the server. Now what it does, server receives the port number and issues the active open So two port numbers are used, port 20 and port 21. Okay, understood about FTP, file transfer protocols. So beginning classes, you were dealing with emails, right? You are dealing with DNS, and also now today you have just gone with the file transfer protocol. Okay or not? Yes or no?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now the other type of protocol is, now you have to study about three more protocols in this module. One is called it as WWW, or World Wide Web. Now what is this actually? Now this World Wide Web, it is nothing but it is a collection of documents, or you have got some web resources, and you all will be identifying with the help of URLs, right? So you will be able to, you can access it or you can search it by browsers over the internet. Now what is website? Website is nothing but it is a collection of web pages to a particular, belonging to a particular organization. Now these pages, we can retrieve it and we can view it by using browsers. Understanding? World Wide Web, it is nothing but it is a collection of documents and other web resources. And all these are identified using URLs. You will be able to access it or you will be able to search it using the browsers. Okay, now this is the architecture of this World Wide Web. Here you have got a web client, or you can call it as the browser. And you have got server, web servers. This diagram, it has shown two servers. This is called it as the web server. Okay, so web client, you can also call it as browser, and you have got a web server, right? Now, what does it contain? The web client or the browser? It contains, so now actually this web browser is nothing but it is a program that is used to communicate with the server on the internet. You want to communicate with the web server, and web browser is nothing but it is a program that is used to communicate with the web server on the internet. Now each browser or the web client, they consist of three parts. One is called it as the controller, and you are having some client protocols here, and the other one is interpreter. These are called it as the client protocols. So it consists of three parts. The browser or the web client, it consists of three parts. You have a controller, you have the client protocols, and you have the interpreters. Okay, now this controller, what it does, it will receives input from the input device. Here you are making use of a keyboard, and with that help of the keyboard, you will be receiving the input and use the programs, the programs to access the document. Now, once the document is accessed, now what it does, it will make use of one of the interpreters to display the document on the screen. You know, when you are typing a URL, now what is actually happening is you are just putting giving the input through the keyboard, and it will just, the controller takes that. Now it will be making use of some programs in order to make it as a document, and you have to interpret it and you have to make it visible on the screen. Okay, so the whole function is done by the web client or the browser. Okay, now the second part is, that is the second one, the communication happens between the browser or the client and the server. So this is called it as the server. Now you want to, so web servers are nothing but the computer which is available for the network resources, and they will provide services to other computer on request. Simply they won't be giving the commands. So what if the client requires something, they have to request for that, right? And the server will be issuing the response of that. So the web pages, it is stored at the server. Now, each time when a request is arriving, the corresponding document is sent to the client. Right? Understanding? So the web pages, you are requesting for a web page. So the server will have that, and based on the request, the server will be issuing that document. Now, popular web servers are nothing but Apache, then Microsoft Internet Information Server, etc. are some of the web servers. So I have told you two things, the architecture of World Wide Web. You have a web client or a browser, and you have a web server. Web client, it consists of three things. You have a controller part, you have a client protocol part, and you have an interpreter. Controller, what it does is it will accept the input from the input device, and they make use of some programs to access the documents, and uh, once the document is there, it will be made available to display on the screen, making use of some interpreters. Right? Now, server is nothing but you want to provide service based on the request. So the web pages, all these web pages, they will be stored in the web servers, and based on the request, you will be getting the web page. Right? Now, this is about, okay. Now this I have already told you. Now you will be, you want to require a unique identifier to locate. Now each web page, you require a unique identifier to distinguish it. You will have lakhs or thousands of web pages. Uh, so if you want to identify it, you should distinguish it with one web page to the another page. So you are making use of the identifier. Okay, so URL is a standard for specifying any kind of information on the internet. Now, four identifiers are needed here to define a web page. The first one is protocol. You have the host part, you have the port number, and you have the path. So URL is nothing but it is uniform resource locator. It is nothing but it is a standard for specifying any kind of information on the internet. Four identifiers you are using in it. One is the protocol, you have the host, you have the port name and or the port number, and you have the path. Now, protocol, it is the client server program. That is, if you want to retrieve the document or file, you will be making use of the protocol. Now, what are the common protocols you are making use of? It is HTTP, right? Or I have told you it can be FTP, or it can be a mail server protocol. Okay. Now, the host identifier, this is nothing but this is the IP address of the server, name of the computer on which the information is located. That is the host identifier. Right? Now, what was the thing? I have told you about domain name, right? The second part was fully qualified domain name. You are trying to retrieve the IP address of the server, whatever it is. So you want to require the IP address. So what was that service called? It is domain name system. Domain name system is the domain names is converted to this IP address. So the host identifier is nothing but it is the IP address of the server. Now, the third part is called it as the port. Okay. Now, it may be sometimes the port number can be there or sometimes it is not there. And how they are separated is if you want to separate between the host and the port number, you are making use of a semicolon here. Colon, not a semicolon, it is separated by a colon. Now, you have the path. You have to identify the location and the name of the file where it is being present. So you are giving the path of that. Okay. Now here also you have making use of three separators like colon and double hash, a colon and a hash. That is the three separators between four pieces. These are called it as separators. That also you just remember it. Okay, so I have told you about URL. URL is nothing but if you are making use, you want a standard for specifying any kind of information on the internet. You have got four types of identifiers. One is the protocol, host field, the port number, and the path. Okay, now you have got three different types of web documents here. Generally, the documents in the World Wide Web, it can be grouped into three broad categories. One is the static document, the other one is the dynamic document, and the third one is the active document. Okay, now what are static document? Static document means they are fixed content document that are created and stored in a server. Already, all these documents will be stored it in the server. So if a client wants to get that document, they have to send a request to the server. So if you want to have a copy, the client, if they want to have the copy of a document, now what will happen? They will be issuing the command. Now, I have told you all the documents, they are stored it in the server and client can only get a copy of that. Okay. Now, static documents, they are prepared using some languages called HTML or extensible markup language, XML or XSL. Okay, so that is the static document. They are the fixed content documents that are stored in the server, that will be created or either stored in the server, and based on the request, the client can have a copy of that document. Okay, now the next type of document is called it as the dynamic document. Dynamic document using common gateway interface or dynamic document using server side script. Now what is this? Actually, this is created by a web server whenever a browser requests for that document. So already it is not stored in the server. Based on the request, the server will be making use of that program. So when a request arrives, the web server, it runs an application program, or you can also call it as a script, right? You can call either it a program or a script, and that creates the dynamic document. Okay, so based on the request, it is not stored that initially in the server. Based on the request, the server will be running an application program or a script, and based on the request, they will be issuing that document. Okay, so that is the difference between static and dynamic. So here they are using some application programs. Here you are running the script inside the HTML document. Okay. Now the third type of document is called it as the active document. Now sometimes you might require that the program or the script, you have to run it at the client side. You have to make use of, or you want to get the result at the client side. And that type of document are called it as the active document. So whenever a browser, if they request an active document, the server, what it does is it will send a copy or script. The server sends the copy of the document, or it can be a script of the document. And that document will be run at the client side or at the browser side. Okay, now if you want to create an active document, that is mainly done with Java applets. Okay, so yeah, so that what it does is it will allow the programmer to write an active document and the browser can run on it. So active documents are the documents that are run on the client side. You want to obtain the result at the client side. So they are called it as the active document. So whenever a client or a browser requests the server about an active document, now what the server does, it will send a copy of the document, or it can be a script also. It can be a JavaScript or it can be an applet. So, and this document will be running it at the client side in order to get the result. Okay, now if you want to create it, it can be making use of Java applet or it can be at the client side script. Okay, so these are the different types of www documents: active, then dynamic and static document. Okay, so these are the things that I want to tell it in today's class. I have just told you about two different types of protocols. One is FTP protocol, that is mainly used for file transfer, and the other one is which was the protocol World Wide Web. Okay, so FTP, so whenever is asked about the file transfer protocol, you have to just draw a diagram based on that and you have to just explain. You have to explain what are the components in each, the client as well as the server part, and then you have to explain it. Okay. So two more protocols are there. One I will be just completing, I'll be completing it in the next hour. One is HTTP and another one is SNMP. So just remember what is FTP and what is WWW. Okay, we have 10 minutes. Amaya, are you ready to take the presentation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what we are doing is we are just revising the module 5. We have completed 2 topics based on that. One is congestion control. What is congestion? What are the causes of congestion? Kavya has explained it, and she has also explained the one type of, that is open loop congestion control method. She has explained, and Afla, she has explained the closed loop congestion control method. Now, the today's topic, what Amaya is going to take about is the quality of service. What is quality of service and what are the techniques to improve the quality of service? Amaya, try to finish it by 11 o'clock, okay? Because we are having the other class. Okay, you can start. All of you keenly listen. Tomorrow I'll be asking questions based on this.
Screen can't.
Yeah, it is visible.
Good morning, all. We are going to discuss about quality of service. The question is, with the help of diagram, explain various techniques to improve quality of service in a network. Quality of service is an inter-networking issue, and it's try to create an appropriate environment for the traffic. Quality of service is something, a flow that seeks to attain. Techniques to improve quality of service. There are mainly 4 important techniques: are scheduling, resource reservation, traffic shaping, and admission control. The first one is scheduling. Packets from different flow arrives at a switch or router from processing. For processing, a good scheduling technique treats different flow in a fair and appropriate manner. So there are several scheduling techniques to design to improve the quality of service. They are first in, FIFO, first in, first out. Next one is priority queuing and weighted fair queuing. First one, FIFO, first in, first out queuing. In this, the packets will wait in a buffer. Buffer means queue. That's until the node, that is switch or the router, is ready to process them. If the average arrival rate is higher than the average processing rate, the queue will get filled up and new packets will be discarded. Next one is priority queuing. In this priority queuing, the packets are first assigned to the priority of classes, and each priority class have its own queue. The packet in the highest priority queue are processed first and then the lowest priority. The system does not stop serving a queue until it is empty. It can provide better QoS than FIFO queue because high priority traffic can reach destination with less delay. If there is a continuous flow in a high priority queue, the packet in the lower priority queue will never have a chance to process. This condition is called as starvation. Next one is the weighted fair queuing. This is a better scheduling method, and in this technique, the packets are still assigned to different classes and admitted to different queue. Weighted based on priority of queue. Higher the priority means higher the weight. The system processes packets in each queue in a round robin function with a number of packets selected from each queue based on the corresponding weight. If the system does not impose priority on the class, all the classes are weighted equally. And the next technique is a resource reservation technique. And in this, a flow of data needs resources such as buffer, bandwidth, and CPU time, and so on. The quality of service is improved if these resources are reserved beforehand. Integrated service depends heavily on the resource reservations to improve the quality of service. That's all.
Finished?
Yes.
Okay. What she has explained is, she has explained about the quality of service. What is quality of service? Quality of service is nothing but you are making an environment so that the flow can, everything, all the data flow will be in a proper manner. Or it is something that a flow seeks to attain. You can call it as the quality of service. Okay. Now you will have different techniques to improve the quality of service. 4 techniques are there: scheduling, resource reservation, traffic shaping, and admission control. Scheduling, you can have 3 different methods. One is FIFO queue, priority queue, and weighted fair queuing. So when it is asked, you have to just draw the diagram and just explain it. Now, FIFO queue means you will have a buffer, and first in, first out basis, the packets will be taken and processed. Now, the second one is called it as the priority queuing. Priority queuing means you will have, when the packet arrives only, you can have 2 different queues. One is based on higher priority, the other one is based on lower priority. Now, based on the priorities, the packet will be processed. Now, third one is weighted fair queuing. Weighted fair queuing is you are, other than the priority, you are assigning some weightage also for each queue. So whichever is having more weight, the packet will get processed. And there in priority queuing, you are having a disadvantage because the lower priority queue is not having any chance to get processed until the priority queue, higher priority queue is empty. So that process is called, that condition is called it as starvation. So that is eliminated in this weighted fair queuing. Okay. Now the other method is called it as resource reservation. Resource reservation, some resources are required priorly for the data flow. So if you are reserving it priorly, and you can improve the quality of service. These are the things that she has told it. So study it today itself, and I will be asking in tomorrow's class. Okay. And next hour, I think Vaishna has to explain the remaining part, that is about leaky bucket algorithm and the admission control. Now, Rangeet, be ready with the data traffic and the flow characteristics portions. I have already given you the questions based on that. So prepare the slides and send it to me today so that I can, if any correction is there, I will be correcting it. Okay. So this is the thing that